Namaste and welcome. Today we're stepping away from the daily noise and diving deep into a really profound text, simply titled Teachings of the True Baba. Whether you're a dedicated spiritual seeker or honestly just someone looking for a little more grounding and clarity in this chaotic modern world, there is so much to unpack here. The wisdom in this document touches on everything from human psychology to our everyday societal relationships. It's just this incredible framework for living. So, let's get right into it. Okay, let's establish our roadmap. We're going to journey through 5 core areas today: mind and desires, action and duty, friends and enemies, wealth and ego, and finally, signs of true greatness. Starting right off with Section 1, mind and desires. Now, this is where the teachings brilliantly contrast 2 very different states of being. On one hand, you've got the leaky pot. Think about it. A mind constantly wrapped up in endless desires is exactly like a pot with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much spiritual power or discipline you pour into it, it all just slowly drains away. All that hard work is literally wasted. But then contrast that with the mountain. A patient, grounded devotee is like this massive mountain that remains completely unshaken, even when violent storms of worldly joys and sorrows are crashing right against it. It really makes you stop and ask yourself, am I leaking my energy or am I standing firm? So the crucial takeaway here is that our existence actually loses its meaning if we fail to use our physical and mental faculties for higher purpose. The source text doesn't sugarcoat this at all. It says a life is considered completely wasted if it misses this 3-part harmony. Basically, your body must be used for charity, your mind needs to focus on contemplating a divine truth, and your voice, well, it should be an instrument for wisdom. It's a remarkably practical checklist for living a purposeful life. Moving outward from our internal state, let's look at Section 2, action and duty. Consider this profound little thought for a second. If the massive belly of the ocean is filled, will you not receive your small share of flour? Why does this matter so much for our modern anxieties? We spend so much time absolutely stressing about our basic survival, our careers, paying the bills, but this teaching offers such profound reassurance. It's telling us that if we just rely on a higher power and stick to our duties, doing the work we're meant to do, our essential needs are always going to be met. If the universe can manage to fill the vast oceans, it can certainly provide your daily bread, right? Let's see how this builds our understanding of karma. Good deeds aren't just these abstract moral points you're tallying up. They actually act as a great supporter, literally helping you cross major life obstacles. And on the flip side, doing wrong creates this constant underlying state of fear. And let's be real, that fear is exhausting. It drains all the energy and radiance right out of your body and soul. So righteous actions are what lift us up, while wrongdoings physically and spiritually exhaust us.
All right, so as we take these actions out into the world, we inevitably build relationships. That brings us to Section 3, friends and enemies.
I absolutely love this unconventional definition. Society kind of tells us a friend is just a cheerleader, right? Someone who always makes us feel good. But the teachings define a true friend as someone who actively points out your flaws and actively tries to keep you away from making mistakes. A real friend bravely corrects you to protect your character, even if it causes a little friction in the moment. They are prioritizing your spiritual safety way above your ego. And the exact opposite is just as fascinating. A true enemy isn't necessarily someone coming at you with a sword. It's someone who constantly flatters you, covers up your mistakes, and enables your worst habits. By constantly praising you when you're doing wrong, they're actively pushing you deeper into the darkness of ignorance. It's a huge warning that the people who feed our egos the most might actually be our greatest adversaries. Which perfectly sets up Section 4, wealth and ego. The teachings give us this incredibly vivid metaphor for navigating life. Imagine you're trying to swim across this massive, choppy ocean. First thing you have to do, lighten your load. Specifically, the load of your own arrogance. Because if you insist on carrying heavy bundles of ego on your head while treading water, you are going to drown. We simply can't survive the deep waters of life if we wear ourselves down with self-importance. Building on that, we get this complete reframe of how we view success. We are all so conditioned to envy wealthy people, for sure. But the text actually says, do not envy them. Pity them. Pity the heavy burden of security and the endless anxieties they have to carry around just to protect all that stuff. If you're going to envy anyone, reserve your envy for the people who are totally absorbed in good deeds and devotion. It's a total paradigm shift. There's also this beautiful, really actionable analogy here about the shadow of wealth. It perfectly captures the paradox of chasing material success. Think of wealth literally like your shadow. If you turn and run desperately after it, what happens? It just keeps moving further and further away from you. But actually, scratch that. If you stop chasing it, turn around, and walk toward the light of your actual duties, your shadow naturally turns back and follows you, falling right at your feet. So, the real takeaway here is that external appearances are deeply deceiving. Saints, or highly devoted individuals, might appear completely impoverished to the outside world. No fancy clothes, no big houses, but they actually possess the most immense, limitless wealth and prosperity, because someone who has mastered their desires holds an inner peace that is infinitely more valuable and way more secure than any bank account.
All of this logically leads us to our final phase, Section 5, Signs of True Greatness. So, what does a saintly character actually look like? Well, it isn't defined by what they own, but by incredible self-restraint. They actively avoid fame and praise, which ties right back to escaping the trap of ego we just talked about. They never hurt others for selfish reasons. They maintain their focus by staying away from overwhelming sensory pleasures, and they just channel all that energy into unwavering devotion to a higher power. But getting to that level, it requires overcoming a massive hazard in our own minds. There's this deep trench of arrogance that separates the soul from God. And I really want to remind you that all this spiritual work, all the duty and discipline we've discussed today, is ultimately about removing that ego. We have to actively build a bridge over our own pride if we ever hope to cross over and unite with divine truth. I absolutely love the practical wisdom here. It's this delightfully simple quote: "You find cloth at a tailor's and sweets at a confectioner's. Spiritual peace and salvation are only found with God." It's so true, right? Just as you go to specific shops in your neighborhood for specific items, you have to look in the right place for inner peace. You simply cannot buy lasting peace with worldly currency at a worldly shop. You have to go directly to the source. And when you do connect with that source, your entire worldview transforms. This mindset represents the absolute pinnacle of faith. A true devotee doesn't just say thank you when they win the lottery. They see divine goodwill in literally everything. They view even the hardest, most painful suffering as a merciful blessing and a tool for growth, instead of cursing the heavens when they lose something. Maintaining that kind of grace and deep gratitude, especially during our darkest challenges, that is the ultimate test of a trained mind. Which brings us to our final, somewhat provocative question for today. I want you to ask yourself, who is truly elevated? Based on everything we've unpacked, it is definitely not the person with the most money or the loudest voice in the room. True elevation is found in the person whose heart is filled with compassion, whose mouth speaks sweet and helpful words, who truly loves all living beings, and whose head is always bowed in humility. I'm going to leave you to deeply ponder the state of your own character against those timeless markers. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive today, and I'll see you in the next analysis.